without telling me where your ancestors from, without telling me the country, but the kinds of foods that they ate, the songs that they sang, or even the complexities if you don't know where they're from. And also, what is it that inspired you to come to today's conversation?
Well, my name is Goddess Nicole. I'm originally from heaven, but I was born in the city of Los Angeles, California. Are you from there too? Beautiful.
Yes.
Of course. Of course you would be from there. That's where all the Los Angeles, they put us there. They put us in there.
Oh, girl, I like that.
So I now live in Las Vegas, it's Babylon. I'm here to help resurrect the city.
Hey.
And, the reason why I came is because I have a more close relationship with my ancestors, even though I haven't met most of them, than I do with physical avatar bodies.
Yeah.
I more live in my heart and this other chakra here. So my ancestors are from, I can more tell you because we don't have the same types of conversations that you would have with a person that's alive. So it's a lot of island energy, a lot of and ancient since the beginning of time. So it's a lot of Egyptian, and even before Egypt, it was even more peaceful before they named it Egypt. A lot of my energy is very Eastern, so very Buddhism.
Did you say Buddhism?
Yeah, because girl, if I stood up and you saw this Buddha back here, I got, it's like
Buddhism. I like that.
Okay. And because like literally when I meditate, I access things that people work really hard for and they take all this ayahuasca for and they try. So I can like totally have like all the effects just naturally because my ancestors and I are so connected. And I believe in my last lives, I was always a very high spiritual being in all of the villages, and I've been brought back again. So definitely island culture, anything that is indigenous. I say like all the shades of brown on down, but I like everything up to, as long as you're conscious. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, love it. Thank you so much. And what is your intention, or what inspired you to show up today?
What inspired me to show up is because my ancestors are always speaking with me. And my family was very prolific in the civil rights movement. Mm-hmm. And I'm actually a multimedia artist. But when your spirit and your ancestors and your calling is different from what you have this whole plan for your life. You're like, I'm going to go make jewelry. Well, the ancestors said, that's what you think. And so therefore, yes. I just would like to talk to other like-minded beings that want to fulfill what their ancestors would like. I actually have a really wonderful project I'm working on. Is it okay to say it?
Sure.
Okay. My mom, she was the first African-American Rose Bowl Parade queen. In 1963, my family helped to raise all the money. Like Martin Luther King, I have pictures with him holding hands with my grandfather. Very profound, very prolific in the civil rights movement. Helped to desegregate golf and things like this. What ended up, yes. So you wouldn't have no Tiger Woods if it wasn't for my family, okay? But
hey, and not only that, y'all wouldn't have Tiger Woods if it wasn't for my ancestors, because
right. So look, we're always connecting right now, right? Between me and you, we made Tiger Woods, right? We made him. Okay. So that's one. And then so my mom, since I said she was the first African-American Rose Bowl Parade in 1963, the queen. Now it was still segregated at that time. In 1964, they desegregated the Rose Bowl Parade, and in 1965, the Jim Crow law, no more segregation. You know what I'm saying? So in those 3 years, that is so profound. And there's the 60th anniversary coming up for 2023, and I want to get my mother back on the float. And so to celebrate the ancestors, to reiterate what all of the things that have happened since then. What have our ancestors done for us? And literally, they were on me so hard to do this project, and I didn't even know it was Celebrate Your Ancestors Day last week. And I was like, oh, you are so funny. They made me come up with the project on Honor Your Ancestors. I'm like, and they push you hard when they want you to do something. They're more pushy than people that's alive. I'm like, well, damn, can I even take a boo-boo? Excuse me. Like, they don't give me no sleep. But I do love them very much. So I'm continuing their footsteps. Thank you for letting me have that long ass
Oh
share.
my
Thank you.
God, thank you. What a gift to be able to receive your story medicine. I'm so appreciative of it. And yeah, we are the ones. We are the ancestors in the making. And so and like I feel like one of the greatest honors that I have been grappling with is recognizing our elders are very close to becoming ancestors. So what are the ways that we can honor them so that when they transition, their legacy goes beyond the things that they gained materialistically, but how it is that they showed up in times where they were made to feel like they didn't belong or that they shouldn't even be here. So thank you.
And thank you so much. I just want to say one last thing. The thing is, a lot of people that put all that energy in, they don't realize what they've really done. They don't really know their appreciation. They end up getting statues, but they don't get their flowers while they're here. So I want to give her flowers while she's here. And that could give her way more life in her and give her way more years in this life to continue to be an elder. And it's because when you know you're appreciated, that you can continue.
Yes. Ooh, my heart. Thank you so much for the work
Thank
that
you
you're
for
doing.
letting me share. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And Lupita, Judy, Eliza, no worries if you're not feeling called to share, but just know that the chat box is available for us to continue the conversation. And if there's anything that's shared in our time together that speaks to your heart, please definitely tune in because you are also very much a part of this conversation.
Beautiful. Well, I would love to give an official introduction, although I've been watching your podcast too, and you're just such a gracious and like natural host. So
you can't help it.
So I just want to give an introduction to you and then turn it over to you for a bit. So
yeah.
Everyone, June Marissa Kaewsith, also known as Juma K, is a professional artist, wellness consultant, and storytelling coach. After spending her 20s as an artist and community organizer inside of nonprofit organizations, she began craving an alternative narrative to healing and justice beyond the struggle. Curiosity led her back to Thailand, where she studied with a traditional midwife to learn the ways of her ancestors. That's when she realized that all of our ancestors were entrepreneurial, filling a need in the community through their sacred offerings. This sparked a calling to assist others in remembering their magic. Today, June facilitates private coaching and group masterminds for women and people of color who are seeking clarity in their messaging and confidence in their speaking so that they can grow their business from a place of alignment. Her clients include birth workers, sexuality educators, therapists, and yoga teachers who are launching their online signature programs while becoming the go-to experts in their industry using their story. She currently resides in Chumash and Tongdeva territory, known today as Long Beach, California. So welcome, June. It's such a pleasure to have you here tonight.
Thank you so much.
And I would love to just know more just about your story. Like how have you come to this place where you are now in the work that you're doing?
Oh my goodness. Well, where do I even begin? Like which lifetime, or just starting from this one? Well, as what was mentioned in my bio, I was actually propelled onto this path 5 years ago when I was freed from my nonprofit job. I was working in domestic violence and rape crisis. So I was a hotline counselor and a community organizer, where my job was to have conversations with community members about alternative means of violence intervention that did not have to involve the criminal justice system. Because prior to having hospitals and 1-800 numbers, how is it that we cared for one another? And that is really what sparked the curiosity in me to reconnect with the ways that our ancestors healed one another. And since then, I have been on this beautiful journey of learning about how to connect with my own ancestors, and especially for people of the global majority, or what many people may name as people of color. How is it that we can work through a lot of the limiting beliefs, the narratives that go on in our mind, the what we call imposter syndrome, which is really rooted in white supremacy? How is it that we can rewire those stories and rewrite new ones, or at least remember the stories it is that our ancestors came with prior to the 500 years of racism that has been on this planet?
It's powerful, powerful. I would love to know too more just about the work that you're doing, and it's interesting because, you know, we'd never really met in person. Somehow through Facebook, your feed has always been popping up, your stories, and I've always found them very compelling and interesting. And so I've been following you in that way. So I would just love to know more about, like, in your workshops, like what kinds of things are people doing, or even in your coaching, your one-on-ones, what kind of
Sure.
experiences are you leading people through?
Yeah, thank you for asking at that. So prior to me actually having a business or even working a full-time job, which by the way, I've only ever had one in my entire life, I was a freelance artist. So I would paint murals around the city, do community murals. I was teaching spoken word, and I was also putting together community theater programs that would center the stories of the local community. For example, I remember putting together an action with hotel workers and how they were fighting for their rights to have protection against sexual assault. And also helped to put on a production that addressed environmental justice here in Long Beach. And so storytelling has always been a part of my life. And how is it that I can ensure that I'm not the one that's speaking on behalf of other people? Because one of my pet peeves is when I say, like, you know, be the voice for the voiceless, because the truth is everybody has a voice. For most of us, it's just having that space, that permission to be able to share that story for ourselves. And so this has then translated into what it is I do today. I work with a lot of healers and people who are stepping into entrepreneurship as their sacred form of activism. Many people may already come with a business plan, and a lot of us are hiding behind the offering without standing out with their story. So for example, you can have, there's thousands of Reiki healers out there. There's thousands and thousands of yoga teachers, right? And a lot of us may run into this belief of like, well, who am I to share my medicine when there's so many other people that's doing this? But guess what, boo? There's only one you. And so I come back to storytelling at the center of everything. Like, tell me your why. Why is it, like, what is it that inspires you to walk this path? Why is this important to you? And even beyond building a business, what is the legacy that you are here to leave behind when you return to stardust and soil, when you become an ancestor, when you are placed at the altar of somebody else's heart? What are the stories that they will tell of you, of how it is you chose to show up in this lifetime, especially when things felt really difficult? Because we don't take the money with us. We don't take any of the material things with us. And so how is it that beyond the dollars in your bank account, you can live your life in full abundance as a feeling, more than all the other things we think make up for being a contributing member of society, the house, the car, the white picket fence, all of those things, which is really a structure that was created by white supremacy, which has then made many of us feel behind or less than. And so we get to recreate a new story. And when I say new, I like to say it with a K. New. We are remembering. That's what so much of this is. Because for the folks who are immigrants in the space, or who are children of immigrants, or whose ancestors were forcibly removed from their lands, this country is still a toddler in the greater scheme of things. Capitalism is still fairly new. And so how is it that we can tap into the wisdom that precedes beyond the couple hundred years of racism? And that's what I'm interested in tapping into with people. So inside of our workshops and my programs, we always open up with calling in our ancestors. Who is it that inspires you to show up? And then how is it that you can call them in on this journey, remembering that you too are an ancestor in the making? And so we dive deep into not just the story, what is the perfect story I'm going to tell, but more so, what are the stories that you're telling yourself? And how is this manifesting into your lived reality? And so we got to work with the stories on the subconscious pattern first. When we are able to nurture our inner world, that is then when it will reflect into our external reality. And so we work on money stories as well. We work on creating your sacred offerings. And we just come back over and over again to the story. And you know what? Even if you don't build a business, that's not even the point of this. Maybe in our time together, it requires that for you to call in this abundant life, you got to not only compost these stories, but maybe compost the environment that you're in, the relationship, the job. Because before you can call in these things, Spirit is going to ask you to make a sacrifice. And sacrifice is not a bad thing. Sacrifice breaks down into to make sacred. So what are you willing to make sacred so that you can call in this version of yourself that is asking to be birthed?
I see a hand up from Goddess Nicole. Goddess, do you want to ask a question?
I just want to actually Jamaki?
June or Jumake.
Jumake. I just wanted to do it right. I like respecting everybody's cultures and everything.
Oh,
Jumake.
yeah. Jumake is a combination of my first middle last name. So
That's beautiful. I love it. I'm renaming myself too. You saw I renamed myself right up in there because you know what? We have to go with our energy, how we feel. But I'm hearing you with the sacrifices, and what I've understood is that it's also about healing those generational patterns, wounds, and traumas. And say for example, if everyone in your family smoked or they drank alcohol, you know, sometimes we get sent with all these messages so we can break. Like when you're talking about the sacrifice, that we can stop doing that. So sometimes we don't understand why those things take control of us, but it's our expression through our ancestors. And then when we are able to break that generational curse, to step back and say no more tobacco or no more alcohol, that's like what you're talking about like putting down those things and saying, and for our next generations, for our children, and so it doesn't keep on carrying.
Absolutely. Just yesterday, we had a session on confronting our imposter. And if you can envision your imposter, first asking, how does the imposter show up in your body? And for most of us, it shows up in our gut, which is our solar plexus, right? Our sacral chakra, our chakra of creation, our solar plexus, which is in our belly, in the center of our chest. It is the chakra of action, taking action. And so contraction precedes expansion. Whenever we are getting ready to birth this next iteration of ourselves, of course, we're going to feel that stagnation, the like, who am I to do this? And then how does that manifest in the body, right? Digestive issues, butterflies, whatever it is. And so much of this work is about tuning into how these stories show up in our body. And then next are, what are the voices that the imposter has to share? Who are you to do any of this? Who are you? You don't have a degree. You don't have a certification. You're still new. How dare you get paid for this, right? All of those stories. And then if you can now take the imposter outside of your body and have a cup of tea with it. Hey, you've been around for some time, so let's just have a conversation.
So can
But
you explain
next,
more about how to do that? That's amazing.
but next is to then, well, for those of you who are in the personal development world, we see these emotions that we label as negative as our protectors. So fear, right, is a big one. Anger is just sadness's bodyguard. The imposter, all of those are just ways that our body is saying, hey, you might get hurt, so don't do it. Don't touch that fire. You might get burned. But where is the very first experience where that story was passed down to you? It tends to come from a parent, an elder figure, who was also told that story when they were a child. And so then if you can imagine your imposter as a 5-year-old child, what is it that they needed to hear the most at that time of their life? And so much of this work is about resourcing, coming back to ourselves, healing our inner child. And when we're able to do that, we're also healing our parents, our ancestral lineage, many generations back, until we get to the core of where that story came from. Uproot it, compost it, and allow that to fertilize the soil for us to grow into this ancestor that we're calling in, one where we get to pass down a new story of possibilities to the next generation that is not rooted in fear, but in imagination and possibilities. And so this is why the work that we are doing, when we are doing this for ourselves, we are doing it for the generations before and after us. And so that's something that I would invite you all to do as a way to not only connect with your ancestors, but to heal alongside them.
June, would you be open to like taking us through a technique that you often share, or maybe even helping us connect with our ancestors? Or we just would love to experience something that you often do with your groups, if you're open to that.
Yeah, sure. And so if you are open, we can actually, yeah, let's do that. Okay. All right. So if you are comfortable doing so, I would love to guide you through reconnecting with that part of yourself. What I actually love to do is to guide you through a process of connecting with yourself as an ancestor. And so I would invite us all to close our eyes. Find yourself in a comfortable seated position. And to take a moment to acknowledge the earth that is beneath our feet, that lifts us up, that carries us, our first mother, whenever we feel like it's too challenging to move on. And so we just say thank you to our first mother, Earth. And take the longest, deepest inhale that you have taken all week, in through your nose, feeling the way that the temperature rises up to your head. Maybe even inviting a slight smile to your face in gratitude of this vessel that you have been gifted with to share your story, to continue your dharma. And as you feel breath rise to the crown of your head, you can hold it just for a moment. And then take your time with an exhale, feeling the way the temperature shifts your breath from coolness to warmth as it exits out of your body. Continue with these steady breaths, feeling the way it rises up your nose to your forehead, your crown. And then as you exhale, feel your body soften. As you take note of any tension you may be carrying in your body, which for many of us, it tends to show up in our neck, our shoulders, our jaw. unclenching your jaw, even noticing the way that the tongue may be sitting on the roof of your mouth, and allow that to relax. Feel the way breath goes through your throat, your heart, all the way down your arms to your fingertips, your solar plexus, your womb, belly, hips, knees, and to your toes. And as you notice where you are carrying this tension in your body, just know that this too is the body's way of expressing how much it loves you. And with that also comes a story. So if that part of your body could speak, what is it that it would say? Perhaps it's saying, you've been carrying a lot, and it is safe to let go. And whatever it is, just say thank you. And as you breathe into those areas, you feel those parts of yourself soften. And so now I invite you to bring your attention to the center of your solar plexus and your belly. Feel the way that it expands and contracts. Breath is the first entry point into connecting with our ancestors. And so whenever you are in doubt of whether or not you are being supported, come back to breath and come back to gratitude, for there is absolutely no coincidence you are here. And if you can call in an ancestor, whether it is a blood ancestor or a chosen ancestor, can you lead in with gratitude for the legacy they left behind? Take a moment to tuck them in to the altar of your heart for the ways that they have shaped and inspired you. And now, I invite you to remember who it is you were before you came into this earth, when you were still placed inside of the womb, getting ready to take your first breath, a life full of innocence and possibility, and how you have always been somebody's dream. And the moment that you moved through that portal, the canal, and took this first breath, you made a choice to return and fulfill a purpose, to leave this planet better than when you first came upon it. And yet somewhere along the way, many have forgotten. From the stories that have been passed down from other adults that have lost their way, because all that is they were trying to do was just survive. And yet here you are as that child with dreams that survived. So take a moment to even acknowledge yourself as a returning ancestor. Lean into gratitude for the ways that you didn't give up, and that you existing and breathing in this very moment is already a way that you are healing the planet. For when you two transition back home to the stars and to the soil, you may ask yourself, what are the stories people will share of me? How is it that I was a better friend, a better partner, a better lover, child, parent? How is it that I made people feel whenever they were in my presence? How is it that I continued to see the God, the Buddha, in every human being I came across, even when they were hurtful? For within them too was an inner child that needed to be told they were enough. And so now I invite you to envision yourself as an elder, getting ready to transition back into the ancestral realm. As you look at your life flash before your eyes and all the challenges you went through, and how you still chose to show up, embodying the highest frequency of love. You did it. You made it. So as you take your last breath in this lifetime, this ancestral version of you, time travels back into present day you to share words of wisdom. What are the words that they impart onto you that you too get to pass down? And how is it that you can call in that 5-year-old version of yourself to share those words? You've got this. You have always been held and protected. You are never alone. I love you. Take a moment to reconnect and remember who you are. Placing a hand on your heart, another over your belly, your womb, your solar plexus. Massaging these parts of yourself. Thanking your body for all the ways that it has loved you and cared for you. Thanking the thousands and thousands of good ancestors that continue to exist through you, through every breath, through the blood that flows through your veins, through spirit. You have always been worthy. Taking another breath in, feeling the sensation of air as it enters through your body. Feeling the fire in your belly, wind in your breath, the earth that you are made from. One of my spiritual teachers, Thich Nhat Hanh, talks about thermodynamics and how there really is no birth or death. Nothing is really created or destroyed, only transferred. So what is it that you get to pass on? When you're ready, you can roll your shoulders, wiggle your fingers, gently open your eyes, not rushing, taking your time, perhaps finding an object in the room that brings you back, and knowing that whatever journey it is you just moved through is always happening, whether your eyes are opened or closed, and that you can take this with you wherever you go, whenever you forget. Come back to breath, to center. You can place a hand on your heart, over your belly, and also give yourself a big fat hug. And when you give yourself a hug like this, you can even feel the way your heart beats against your chest. And to use your hands to thank the parts of your body that were screaming loud throughout our time together. Just say, thank you. I know I've been hard on you. And maybe there's one commitment you can make to care for this spacesuit before you have to return it, because we all have to return it eventually.
Wow, that was beautiful. Thank you so much. I want to open it up to everyone in a minute, but first I just wanted to share that when you were inviting us to, connect with ancestors, something really shifted when you said to also invite in not necessarily just biological ancestors, but ancestors of choice. Yeah. And that was very important for me. And I work at Omega Institute, and Omega Institute was conceptualized by the Sufi mystic Pir Vilayat Inayat Khan, and I'd never met him in person. I've known of him. He passed on a number of years ago, but I felt his presence come in very strong during that part. So thank you. It just, it wasn't anything I expected or anticipated, but it was very beautiful. So thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. I love to call in the goddess Green Tara. She was very pivotal in the creation of my business, which its first iteration was called Green Tara Guidance. Now I called in Ichel, Yamaya, Saraswati, all these other female bodhisattvas and deities that I had only recently come to know the past couple of years, because of growing up, all I was ever introduced to were men as spiritual leaders. And wow. And the story of Green Tara is that she found enlightenment in her lifetime, only to be told by a male monk. It was such a shame that she wasn't born as a man, otherwise she would have more followers. And so instead of transitioning into nirvana, where suffering ceases to exist, she made a choice to be reincarnated into as many lifetimes as possible until all people are liberated from suffering, irregardless of their background, their gender, their class. And so that's who I love to call in and embody when I envision myself as a future ancestor.
Beautiful. I would love to know if anybody in the audience has any questions that you would like to ask June, or anything you want to share about your experience of that beautiful meditation that she just led us through.
Hi, Judy. I see your eyes. Yeah, I would love to hear from folks, an ancestor that maybe appeared, or what it is your future self had to share, anything that came up for you.
Well, since you see me, can you hear?
Yes, I can.
Wow, I'm sorry. I'm really scared now because I've never done this before.
Oh, well, let me tell you a secret, Judy. The body actually doesn't know the difference between what is fear and what is excitement.
Yeah.
It's the story that we share.
You'll have to assist me, because in these emotions I go stupid. I don't have much. I can't. But my deity was Isis. She came to me a few months ago, and when I want to think about the earth and being mothered and loved, I'm going to cry. I think of Isis, because she comes in she's so strong. She
Beautiful.
comes in for me.
Beautiful.
And yeah.
Tears are just the body's way of saying thank you. And
Yeah.
A big part of what colonization has done to our emotions is that it's made us believe that grief is a bad thing, right? Stop crying is what we hear. There's a great book I recommend called The Smell of Rain on Dust, which is basically about that, how so much of the violence that we have in the world is a byproduct of the ways that grief has been suppressed. And so why is it that we have mostly men that are the perpetrators of violence? Because from a very early age, we told them to not cry. And so any opportunity people have to release and not suppress it, I invite it. Thank you for sharing.
Thanks.
Does anybody else have any questions or anything you would like to share? We'd love to hear from you. I'll share just a little bit more about my experience again. So later on in the meditation, I don't remember exactly what you were saying, but the message that was coming through to me was that I am love, but I'm also love that sometimes hides itself or disguises itself or turns itself inside out to seem like it's something else, but that's still inside of that I am love. And so I don't know, it was just, again, it was just a very unique and interesting experience to sense that in that way.
May I ask, what is it that you're hiding from?
What is it that I'm hiding from? That's a good question. I think I'm honestly hiding from my own power, or what I would like to achieve.
And how does that show up in your body?
I think sometimes I slouch a little bit with my posture. I know I probably eat a little more than I should. I would say, it's just like a hesitant. It's interesting because I also used to be a performance poet and slam poet back in Puerto Rican many years ago.
Hey.
And when I go into poetry mode, like I'm a different person. Like that, the shoulders shift and like my voice changes and it just becomes a different me. And I
Yeah.
feel like that me is often more real than the person who I am in daily life. Like that the connection with the words and the language and just
Yeah,
that
I feel
stage
that.
presence. Even though I haven't done it for years, I remember that feeling and that presence. It's a different me,
So what are ways that you can call that version of yourself back?
Well, getting back into poetry. I mean, I love poetry and I really want to write more. And then also just being more honest with what I want to do. I think sometimes, you were talking about, capitalism and white supremacy and colonialism. And I sometimes think that I'm living this brand of a Reiki master or the energy healer, right? And there's this kind of thing that you're supposed to be, like you're always supposed to be kind of calm and peaceful. And
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think that's truth,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I also when you were talking earlier about anger, I mean, I think that anger is in many ways the defender of love or the defender of
Yeah.
boundaries and other things. And so again, I'm often in a world where anger is perceived as something that should be tucked away or moved away, even though I don't agree with that myself. I'm often navigating that world. So I feel like even subconsciously, I've kind of maybe taken that on in some way.
Yeah, I feel that. I have a great book by the Dalai Lama called Be Angry. Anger is just an indicator of, it is oftentimes an indicator of an injustice.
Yeah.
But the challenge is, how is it that you respond to anger when it shows up?
Yeah.
Will you show up to it with violence or use that as an opportunity to come back to center as the teacher? And look, right now I'm wearing fishnets. I'm getting ready to go to my pole dancing stripper class after this, because that is a part of my sensual embodiment and spiritual practice. And so you get to be all of the things. So like, who is it that even created this quote unquote brand of what a Reiki healer is supposed to look or act like? Like, I don't want that carbon copy. What I want is you.
No, thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
I feel like I try to remember that, but sometimes, again, just in the world that I'm in, there's it's almost like a vibration that I think I succumb to sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's okay. This is like now another practice that you can do is like start writing down these stories and the ways that they show up. The story that I tell myself is blank, but the truth is blank.
Beautiful.
Nicole, you had your hand up, I think. You had a question?
Not really a question, but Brent, I'm a writer as well. And what I started to notice at a young age of writing, well, I got accused of plagiarism in high school, and I wrote something very quickly, and I ended up choosing an English major because of that. And later on, I started understanding when you get into the writing mode, that's your direct connection with your ancestors. So when you're getting up there, you're not just getting up there for you, you're getting up there for however you define God in your life, for all of your ancestors. And so you've got so much of that energy in you. You're like a, you're an alignment, You don't have to, you can have that all the time though. You're that same, your ancestors are always with you. God is always with you. It's just that you only feel like that imposter thing that she's talking about. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? You're always that. You're always amazing. You're not separated from that. You're always don't imposter on your own self. You're amazing.
Hey.
So I want to be mindful, June, that I know you've got a class that you've got to go to, and I don't want to keep you longer than what we had agreed upon. And I did want to share a group healing with everybody, a group energy healing, but I wanted to see if there was anything you wanted to say before that, or is there anything coming from the audience? I
Sure.
want to respect where
Thank you
everybody.
so much for that. I am going to leave you a link to a free guided meditation on connecting with your ancestors. It's also a chakra alignment, and there's some other goodies that come with this. And so if you click on the link that's in the chat, you will stay up to date with what it is I'm up to in the world. I tend to send stories once a week, or at least every other week. And it's mostly updates on my podcast. I'm going on my first sabbatical this fall. And so staying on my email list is a great way to stay up to date on my adventures, or to follow me on Instagram. And I'll also put that in the link. So thank you so much, everyone, for taking time out of your day to come and be with your breath and your ancestors with me. And don't be a stranger.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I'm going to just do a short little energy healing. I'll just say a few things about me again. Brett Bevell, I'm an energy healer. Some of you may know me from the Silvana app by Mind Valley. I also teach at Omega Institute, but my most recent book is called Healing Racism Within. It's basically about how to use energy healing techniques to weed out. For me, it was a lot of, racial bias and the kind of the dysfunctional family of hatred that I had been born into. But the healing I'm going to offer now is just going to be for helping release whatever needs to be released in this moment. So I'm just going to invite folks to just get into a place of stillness, relaxed. You can be in a chair, you could be lying on the floor, whatever works for you. And this healing is going to use a modality that I call magical awakening, that has kind of a lineage that goes back to Merlin and Lady of the Lake. And so I'm just going to talk to the energy and just going to be inviting Merlin's Book of Magic to manifest a pyramid of dragon fire around everybody right now who's on this call. And also inviting Merlin's Book of Magic to manifest cords of gemstone of Excalibur between each and every bone in your body to each and every other bone in your body, manifesting a beautiful web of light inside of you now. And also inviting the energy of blue fire to come through as an octahedron around you, cleansing out any impurities, anything that needs to be released, anything that needs healing right now. And also inviting the element of earth to come through as a beautiful crystal gemstone healing, just letting the divine choose the properties of whatever crystals or gemstones want to come through into this healing moment now. And then I'm going to invite you to come into a place that I call the lake. And I don't mean a lake like a body of water with fish in it, but I mean a lake that is that kind of fluid place of who we are before we crystallize into this world of form. That very fluid place where things can shift and change easily. And while you're in the lake, just calling in Lady of the Lake to come and do whatever healings she sees would be in your highest good in this moment. And so just inviting her presence in. And when she comes in, she's a multi-dimensional being, and often she will do many things with different people. So I can't track everything that she's doing with each person individually on the call, but I did feel her presence come in. And usually she comes in and then she leaves pretty quickly. And thank you, Lady of the Lake, for that. And also now just inviting Merlin's Book of Magic to surround you in the energy of the Paramatman light. It's a beautiful pyramid of that light surrounding you, igniting your own light, raising your own vibration, your own healing. And while that's happening, inviting through just a pair of spirit hands as a healing emanation for you, just to raise up that own divine light that exists inside of you. And when I do this, sometimes people might even feel as though there's a pair of spirit hands on your shoulders or resting in a place where you might need some healing on the physical body. And also just sending some healing into our ancestral lines to just clear anything there that wants to be healed, just bringing some light into that space. And also, even if it's just for us to recognize and honor our ancestors and their stories and how they manifest through us. And I'm gonna invite Merlin's Book of Magic to now surround you with the cube of Merlin's magic mirror, which is reflecting back to you the beautiful reflection of the energy of your own highest potential and your own best possibilities being reflected back to you from every direction, from above and below, from within and without. And hopefully you will just carry that energy into the rest of your day, into the rest of your evening. And again, just trying to be mindful that our time together is coming to a close. So I'm going to go ahead and just bring the healing into a place of integration. And just imagine or sense a beautiful waterfall of light coming down from above, flowing through all of your chakras, all of your meridians, washing away any energetic debris, any unwanted thoughts, beliefs, emotions that are just ready to move and be released or felt or heard. And just now sprinkling in some mists of Avalon energies just to help connect you deeper to that sense of the deep mystery of the divine in whatever way it shows up for you. So I want to thank everybody for showing up tonight. And I want to thank you, June, for guiding us, for sharing your time and sharing your wisdom. And, I really appreciate it. I wish I was a better marketer and had more people with us here tonight, but I just really appreciate what you shared and the gifts you offer. And I invite people to also follow up with you to connect with you directly about more of your offerings in the world. You're on mute right now, so.
Thank you so much for having me, Brett. I trust that whoever it is that arrived today was meant to be here. And so thank you for taking time out of your day or your evening, especially if you are on the other side of the globe. I'm not sure what time it is. Thank you for showing up for this. And I'm so excited to see the ways that you get to integrate this future ancestral version of yourself into the here and now.
Thank you.
I just want to thank you as well. That was super powerful. Thank you. Your exercise was phenomenal. And it's not about the quantity, it's the quality. And this group is super quality. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. What a pleasure. What an honor to have you in this space. And as you can see, my next steps, my next version of meditation.
Beautiful queen. You're such a beautiful goddess. Thank you, goddess.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Good night.